Hi, folks. I'm Dr. Russ Wallers in the Department of Marketing in the Miller College of Business at Ball State. This overview covers two chapters in our course dealing with product strategy. After reading and studying the chapters in this module over these two chapters, hopefully you'll understand what the product concept really means, understand the differences between goods and services, understand the importance of various product elements, including the brand's image, packaging, warranties, and other product extensions. Know the differences among the various consumer and business product classes. Understand how product life cycle affects strategic planning. Know what is involved in designing new products and what new products really are. Understand the new product development process. Understand the need for product or brand managers, and understand how total quality management can improve goods and services. This overview basically is an overview that I think will cover the key issues in the two chapters that make up the product strategy module. So be sure to read the text issues carefully. And we're going to cover basically two issues in this discussion, actually three. Different types of product categories. We're going to look at the product life cycle, which is an extremely important strategic planning concept. And then we'll also look at the new product development process. To start us out, um, we could pose the question, what is a product in a marketing context? As defined in our text material, a product is anything that offers utility to the user, any needs satisfying offering of a firm. Sometimes the economists talk about a product as a bundle of utilities, and it's basically comprised of perhaps a tangible good, perhaps a service element, the brand itself and the brand's image, and the position that that connotes in the marketplace. Uh, the package could be a big part of the product. The warranty certainly could, and other issues, anything that is a product extension that offers utility to the consumer is a part of the product. The material in our reading distinguishes between consumer goods and uh, non-consumer goods. Looking at consumer products first, we often talk about four categories of consumer products: convenience goods, shopping products, specialty goods, and unsought goods. In a nutshell, convenience goods are products that the consumer buys with a minimum of shopping effort. And these would include staple products that we might buy in the grocery store, impulse items, emergency goods. Shopping products are goods that the consumer will typically engage in some comparison shopping for to compare product features, perhaps features of the outlet itself, and specialty goods are a special type of shopping product for which the consumer will exert inordinate amounts of effort to locate. Often, products for which the consumer has brand loyalty tend to become specialty products. These are pretty well defined in the text, so make sure that you read this material carefully. Unsought products are products that the consumer does not ordinarily seek out but needs. That may be things like an umbrella or perhaps a lot of replacement products, maybe even tires, maybe insurance. So this is the classification scheme of consumer products. It's important to understand the product type that you're marketing in the sense that that often determines the appropriate product strategy. This issue will come up later in the pricing and the distribution and promotion chapters. Business products are a little different than consumer goods in a couple different ways. One major way is business products are not used by the ultimate consumer. They're used by business customers. Um, Business products usually have a derived demand. An example would be steel. Steel would be a business product, the demand for which is derived from the demand for the products that steel is used in producing. Um, Business products also are goods that have an elastic industry demand. Uh, an elastic demand is a demand curve that's downward sloping to the right that has a fairly steep negative slope. Examples of that would be electricity, uh, petroleum products, and so forth. And here again, we're talking about the industry demand being inelastic. Um, Also, the tax treatment for business products are somewhat different. The tax treatment for business goods often involves the expensibility or capitalization of business products. The way the text is organized, um, there are 6 different types of business product classifications that are covered in the text. Each of these is different and implies a slightly different marketing strategy. An example would be installations would be maybe a warehouse installation or a nuclear power plant. That would be an example of an installation. Accessories are business goods that are used in connection with perhaps an installation. Raw materials are hopefully self-explanatory. Cotton would be a raw material. Component part and materials, those might be uh, processed goods that are used in producing other goods, parts, so forth. MRO supplies, MRO stands for maintenance, repair, and operating supplies. And these are basically the convenience goods in the business world. And we also have professional services. So make sure that you concentrate on the distinction between these types of business products when you go through the material in your text. Now, we're going to introduce a really important concept coming up here in the next few uh, slides. This is the product life cycle. The product life cycle is a concept based on the observation that if you graph the sales revenue curve, the sales revenue function, for almost any product, it tends to follow a predictable pattern. And I am going to uh, advance through the 4 stages of the product life cycle and get this all on the screen at one time because I want to make a couple observations here. Now, if you look at the uppermost curve, this S-shaped curve tends to describe what happens to most products as they go through their industry sales cycle over time. Notice that when products are introduced, this dotted line represents zero profits on the vertical axis. And starting from time zero, when a new innovative product is introduced, during the first stage of the life cycle that we call the market introduction stage, sales tend to increase at an increasing rate. Notice that during the early part of the life cycle, this curve is convex upward. Curve points upward. And as we go into the next stage over time, entering the product growth stage, sales continue to grow at an accelerating rate. And then at some point midway through the growth stage, notice that there's a change in that curve. Um, in calculus, we would say there's an inflection point midway through the growth stage. That inflection point is the point at which the sales revenue curve that we're pointing to is growing at its fastest rate. And another way to say that is that the curve at that point has its highest positive slope. As we move through the latter parts of the growth stage, the sales revenue increases, but at a decelerating or a decreasing rate. Notice that the curve is convex downward for the rest of the sales cycle. Sales continue to grow into the maturity stage. The rate of growth slows, and the sales revenue curve reaches a growth ceiling. That growth ceiling is an interesting point because if you were the brand manager participating in the industry uh, sales curve in that industry, you'd certainly want to know where the growth ceiling was for the industry. And typically, the sales will, over time, at some point, reach a growth ceiling and then start a decline. Not all products that we observe in the marketplace have gone into a decline stage. Sometimes the products will reach maturity and then just sit up there and kind of hang on that horizontal uh, trend. But if nothing's done to improve the product, typically the product would go into a sales decline. That's also especially true for fashion goods that go through various fashion cycles. A lot of times a product will be introduced and new technology will come along and knock it out of the market and put it into a sales decline. So at any rate, one important observation is that the industry sales curve for almost every product that we might consider tends to follow an S-shaped curve. We call this the product life cycle, and it's comprised of four stages: market introduction, market growth, market maturity, and the decline stage. A couple observations. Focusing again on this uppermost curve, which is sales revenue. Sales revenue is growing typically at its fastest rate midway through the growth stage. Sales continues to increase at a decelerating rate and typically reaches its peak in the maturity stage. So if the question were posed, at what stage during the product life cycle is sales growing at its fastest rate, it would be growth stage. If the question was posed, at what stage in the product life cycle is sales typically peaking, that would be the maturity stage. Another, and very importantly, the shape of this product life cycle, as explained in the text, is determined by competitive forces. During the market introduction stage, there are often very few competitors, and as the product goes through time and becomes successful, that tends to pull in competition, and that tends to slow the growth rate. In addition to looking at the sales revenue curve, the bottom curve depicts industry profits. This brings up a point that's kind of interesting and very important from a strategy standpoint. During the market introduction stage, because of the sunk investment required to bring new products to market, uh, almost all new products, consumer goods especially, lose money during the market introduction stage. So this introductory stage loss is inevitable. However, during the decline stage, if profits erode drastically enough such that the profitability becomes negative, those losses are avoidable by pulling the product off the shelf in a timely fashion. So, one of the issues with respect to the product life cycle is that if the brand manager watches the trends carefully and gauges strategic moves in connection with the stage of the product life cycle that the product is progressing through, um, it's possible to predict at what point the product may not be profitable, and uh, the product can be pulled off the market at that point before the losses are too significant. Not all products that lose money during the decline stage should be eliminated. The text talks about the pros and cons of trimming products in the decline stage. So there are different issues to weigh in connection with that decision. Um, if a product is likely to generate a loss during the decline stage, in which case the brand manager would be able to forecast when the product would be withdrawn from the market, um, the firm can have another product on the development drawing board to take its place to keep overall corporate profits healthy. So that's the idea with the product life cycle, is you can use this to time your strategic moves. So the product life cycle is a very important concept, and make sure you read that through very carefully in the text material. Another issue that's developed in the reading material that's very important is the new product development process. Every company that you might look at may have a slightly different approach to developing new products, but there are 5 generic stages that tend to describe what happens in most companies with respect to this process. The idea generation stage, the screening stage, the idea evaluation stage, and the development stage, followed by commercialization. There's a rationale for the sequencing of these stages, and basically the rationale is that during the idea generation stage, where ideas are collected and subjected to some screening activity, the screening activity basically involves taking a look at the new product idea and giving it a cursory review from the standpoint of, does it fit in with our core business? Does it fit in with our strengths and our market expertise and so forth? Um, if it seems to have potential, at that point, uh, more money can be invested to take a little closer look at the new product idea. So during the idea evaluation stage, that's where we might get involved in concept testing and uh, putting together pro forma income statements based on estimates of manufacturing costs. Um, the production people get involved in those, and the cost accountants. On the marketing side, during the idea evaluation stage, uh, forecasts of the market size might be generated, and sales forecasts over the first couple years of the product's possible lifespan can be estimated. So, looking at the projections of anticipated sales and anticipated costs during the idea evaluation stage, uh, forecasted uh, sales and income statements can be generated to see whether the product has profit potential. Uh, if it appears to have profit potential, the new idea is then subjected to uh, technical development. Here we might find the product manufacturing equipment is developed, product prototypes are developed and tested, and so forth. So um, all of those development activities take place during this step, finally leading to commercialization. Commercialization involves having everything timed to allow the product to be launched into the marketplace. This requires the advertising campaign to be ready. It requires enough inventory to be produced to support a national rollout, so the distribution channels are stocked with inventory and so forth. So that's basically, in a nutshell, the new product development process. But one thing important to recognize is, as you go from stage 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, increasing amounts of money are invested in the new product idea. And at each stage, the idea is to identify product ideas that have little potential or are just plain not good ideas, and eliminate those from consideration before any more money is invested in the new product process. So it's kind of a process that's very conservative in terms of committing funds. Certainly, a company would not go out and buy production equipment uh, to produce a new product without going through some preliminary steps of coming up with some profit projections beforehand. It just doesn't make sense. So the idea is to spend as little money, invest as few funds as possible at each successive stage. And coming out of each successive stage, uh, the company should have, the marketing manager should have a much better handle on what the true risks of developing the new product idea are. So it's not a matter of eliminating risks, it's a matter of understanding what the risks are and investing money accordingly. There's basically two mistakes you can make in the new product development process. You can eliminate what would be a good idea uh, by mistake. When that happens, the projected potential profits are gone forever. So that's a serious error. But you can also invest tons of money in a an idea that turns out to be bad. So there's no magic wand to wave here, but it's a matter of being systematic about the process and taking a look at each uh, new product idea by subjecting it to increasing amounts of scrutiny. So that in a sense is the basic new product development process. Those are the basic issues I think are important to concentrate in going through this material. Again, uh, these two chapters on product strategy are extremely important. They're the first element of the marketing mix that we're talking about, and the key terms shown here and shown at the end of the respective chapters in your book are key terms that you should go through carefully. Uh, so this has been a very cursory overview of the reading material. It's not intended to replace your reading. It's basically the intent here was to cover three important issues uh, that you should concentrate on in particular. So that pretty much wraps up this section on product strategy. I hope you enjoyed the overview. Be careful out there, and we'll see you online soon. Thank you.